This photo walk story comes from a day trip to Paris where we went there solely to take photos, getting away from London and finding ourselves in a new environment. A big thank you to Bodan and Finn, who actually invited me on this trip extremely last minute, but it was so worth it. So let's jump straight into this. The first shots of the day are always the most important ones. They're the ones that warm me up and set the tone for the day and how I think things are going to go. The first shot here, this man walked past his door and I thought it gave off a nice contrast. I think to improve this photo, it would have been nice if the man was dead center in the middle of the door. Now, this street was the perfect one to start on. We walked further down the street and I found this main character looking man in a fish store. I'm a massive fan of this shot, and the grade behind it reminds me of Arcane because I just watched it. So I'm grading things a little bit green to look like Zorn. Look at that light, man. It's just beautiful. Just gliding off. Wow. But strolling down the street, this street really didn't want to give in. And I think it's the perfect way to set the tone of not just starting YouTube this year, but also just taking photos for any trip. It was so busy, and I came across this gentleman in a window. I'm not too sure what he's actually doing, but he seemed to just be chilling out, doing a bit of work. And I thought I'd just capture him candidly without being noticed. I was really happy with how the colors came out on the window and the contrast to him, and the fact that he still stood out in the frame. Literally a couple seconds away from this lady was posting something, and I decided to take the photo a bit on the wonk. So it just added a bit of mystery to our frame. All that mystery could also be seen as a rush. This photo came out really nicely. And one thing I really do enjoy is that you can actually see her reflection in the mirror. I think this adds a further sense of story to this photo. And also, there's a green bag in the back. And there's also a green bin in the back alongside the green building, which I think just sits so well in this frame. That's our main character in Paris if I've ever seen it. This lady is the main character. As we carried on to this new street, I think something about Paris and the buildings is so beautiful. So as these people walked past, I thought, let's get a photo of them. Now, this photo is actually quite boring in my opinion, and to improve it, I'd probably use AI remove solely to get the other lady out on the right, so the lady in the middle would be balanced. However, due to this photo looking boring, I thought, why not add some slow shutter to this, because there were so many cars coming through. Now, the fact I went into slow shutter and somehow magically, the shot that I take, well, the van actually frames up the subject in the window, and I think this is one of my favorites from the trip. Then to the left of this photo, we actually saw some chefs standing outside in all white, and they actually really stood out on this road. But the photos I originally took of them, they just felt basic. Ruler thirds, just framing them within the cars coming by. I actually decided to frame them through the work things that are right in front of us here. The barriers, I guess it's called. The orange pop really allowed the subject of, well, the chefs to really stand out in comparison to the photo. It also shows the technique of framing a frame, where you frame your subject in another frame, just to drive that attention towards the subject. As we ventured further into the streets of Paris, we actually found this beautiful street where the sun and the pocket of light was just absolutely immaculate. So we're going to spend some time here now. I'm going to talk to you about shooting in pockets of light. Lighting in photography, well, it is key, whether it's natural lighting or using light. But to begin this pocket of light journey, we found a gentleman on the corner who really stood out. Now, it reminded me of the hustle and bustle in London, but actually just a Parisian version. But these two guys just chilling here having a chat, just going against the grain of everyone moving around them. I think it really sits quite nicely. From here, I reposition myself so that the apres and the light I could use to surround and highlight the subject here. So again, it is of the same gentleman, but it's a different angle. And this time I went for a wider shot, so I could allow all the foreground to be the light and the buildings to push the focus towards our subject. Now, if you can't tell already, I'm pretty much just in the same location, but I'm just using tons of different parts so that I can find myself different photos, different methods, different techniques, different perspectives. I actually used this post as foreground, and I waited for a subject to walk into the pockets of light. This shot actually did take some time because the pocket of light was only in a certain part, so the person had to be the correct height. And there's something so satisfying about just waiting for a shot to come around. And when you finally hit it, I mean, happy days, right? But the one thing I do love a lot when doing street photography is just getting so many different angles and then picking the one that you love the most. Now here, the strength of the shadows really stood out to me. So rather than focusing on the woman as the subject, she is still the focus, but I actually focused on her shadow. And you can see here, I tried horizontal, I tried straight on, I tried vertical. I also tried it on the wonk. But this shot that came out at the end arguably might be my favorite photo of this trip. There's something about this woman's shadow which really just stands out to me. And it also shows how you can get creative when you're shooting. And on the note of patience, I literally looked to my right and I found this new frame where I could use the front of this lamppost and the apros we used originally, but to kind of use them as a leading line towards people walking into this pocket of light. And happy days that this couple literally walked right into it perfectly, and I think they suit the vibe bang on. Again, we're just wiggling around here, finding the right spot, and I actually found a spot where we could just get the subject in the light. There's no background, it's literally just darkness and then subject, which I think really makes your subject stand out and pop. But the contrast here is absolutely gorgeous, and I think this is probably, again, this section is definitely some of my favorite photos from this trip. As you can tell, I do love shooting in pockets of light, but the way you actually ace them, to keep it short and sweet, I'd say crank your shutter speed high, keep your ISO low, and then you can use your aperture however you like. But don't be scared to see so much darkness in the image. You just want to make sure you can expose for the highlights, so then when you go into post, you can make sure the highlights look brighter, your shadows look darker, and from there you get images that pop. We continued on to more streets, and we actually found more pockets of light just in new areas. This place wasn't as open, but this guy really stood out to me as he leant onto the post, checking out his phone. To be honest, I don't mind this photo. It's not one of my best, but it's one of them ones that just keeps you going, keeps you moving, keeps you trying new things and techniques. But from this photo, it actually leads me to one of my favorite moments from the trip, where just before this, I had taken a photo of two gentlemen, and well, I'll let the footage speak for itself here.
Can I see the pictures? Do you have the chance to take some pictures when
I got one. I tried to be secret.
No problem, but I saw it's fantastic. Can I see it, please? He's my best friend.
I can take another one.
Yeah, I mean, it was spontaneous. That's why.
Yeah, I'll take one. Can we take some portraits? Let's do it.
Fantastic. It's my best friend. It's the first time that I'm in Paris. So
Ah, nice. What's your name?
I'm Sebastian.
Sebastian. Jaden.
Jaden. Nice
Nice
to
to
meet you.
meet you.
He's Christian.
English. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you.
Jaden. Nice to meet you,
Nice
Chris.
to meet you, Ray.
Hi, nice
Ah,
to meet you.
sick. Yeah, we'll get some portraits.
I'm Sebastian. Nice to meet you. My friends call me Seb.
So he got you the picture, right?
Yes.
But we'll take a portrait. We'll get a nice
really?
one. Get one together.
Fantastic, nice.
Strike a smile. Get close. Get close. Yeah. Lovely. Pleasure to meet you.
Hey, my pleasure.
Have a good rest of your day.
Man, enjoy.
You too.
I think the way these photos have come out are super wholesome, and they represent exactly how this interaction was. Shake hands, have a hug, and just get some lovely portraits of two strangers who I have no idea who they are, but I guess I do now. So big shout out to them. But on that note, I think that's one of the best things about photography, is that cameras can literally pull anyone together. The amount of people who I've made friends with from, if they're just carrying a camera, I'll go up, I'll approach them, I'll chat to them, just because they have a camera, their gear. I want to know what they shoot, what they do, why they're shooting. Even if it's just for fun, or if it's shooting on a job, I will bug anyone. But the same when I'm shooting, a lot of people tend to ask me, why are you shooting? Or they'll ask for a photo, or what am I doing? And from that, I've been able to make friends across the country, which is brilliant. Back to shooting now, and I actually found this lovely composition where there was a building which reflected off, and I found a spot where people walking past, you could reflect them in the image. Now, it's not quite perfectly symmetrical, but I think it's a nice way of getting creative whilst out on the street. I think the best part is, because it's this composition where you've got the path going one way and the other, you can take this in vertical, and you can also take it in horizontal. And one of the best things about doing street photography in Paris is, for me, because I'm from London, it's completely something new. And when I'm in a new place, it means there's new people to see, new styles, new outfits, new vibes, different weather. All these new things inspire me to get out and shoot. And sometimes, even when you're at home, say you're from London, it's just good to get outside, whether it's an hour away from home, 2 hours. It just gives you something new to shoot and a new perspective, and it can brighten up your creative spark again. I haven't gone out and taken photos for a good month now, but this trip has definitely helped me open up my eyes and allow me to go and shoot.
This gentleman right here looks phenomenal.
These pillars came along and they absolutely brightened up my day. There's something so satisfying about pillars. They go absolutely crazy, because when you use the rule of thirds, leading lines, you can frame your shot and your subject in such a beautiful way. This guy was just chilling out on his phone. He had no idea I was there, and it allowed me to just capture him perfectly with the leading line of the pillars. And not only that, I was able to get a different perspective, using the left side as a leading line towards the man, but also having the leading line on the other side of the pillars still there. I think that's also another cool thing with street photography is if you have the same subject, you can try and capture 2 to 3 different angles, and from there you can make a collage. But I literally walked a couple steps away. You can actually see the pillars in the back of the footage as I'm walking, but I thought these little silver things would be an awesome way to frame a subject. Now, it definitely looked interesting bending over in the middle of the street, putting my camera through a random hole, but it was definitely worth it for this shot. The way the woman's head just appears in this frame, I think turned out really nice. And even on the horizontal, which I think I prefer, it's such a balanced frame that it just sits well with me. Finally, not really much to say about this final photo. It's a standard run and gun, high shutter speed, getting people on the spot as we go. But this guy just looks like an absolute stud. Just on the phone, chilling next to the bike, in his jacket.
The most important part of me coming here is I'm here with Bodan. We actually met a month ago, studying right now, but he's studying in London. And he's a creator, and I just hit him up and I said, yo, we should go take some photos. And from there we've become very good friends. We're now in Paris for the day just to take photos. But one of the most important parts of creating is actually that you should work with other creatives. It's so important, it's absolutely vital, and it means that you can learn from one another, you can grow together, and most of all, you can just have fun with the whole creative process. Bodan, come here. Get in. So creating together, how is that like important to you?
I think it's
grab it, take it,
yeah.
own it.
I think it's really important because it really inspires you. Especially for me, I found once I got a community of creatives around me, I really felt more driven and more inspired to just create anything and just keep improving my craft. And it just really drove me to the point where I am today. So I'm really happy I was able to find a community. So I would say that's one of the most important aspects of creating. Like, I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jaden and Finn telling me come out to Paris, because it's not really something I would think to do for one day. But as you can see, we're here creating, and we've gotten some sick stuff so far, and we got the rest of the day ahead of us, so I'm excited.
Now, this final clip here means actually quite a lot to me because 2 years ago is when I just started photography, and I went to Paris 2 months after I just got my camera. I got a photo just outside that cafe, and that photo means a lot to me. It's one of the first photos I took that I thought, oh, that trip really made me realize that I think I could be good at this and it could take me somewhere further than what I'm just doing now as a hobby. And I guess that has definitely happened across the last 2 years. It's been insane. It was a nice way to look back and reflect on this journey of taking photos across 2 years of time. But from here, we then went to the most classic point in Paris. We obviously had to go and see the Eiffel Tower, and it was really nice to just go chill out. I wasn't too fussed about taking photos here, but it was definitely more for things such as carousel covers or just taking it in and just appreciating that because of a camera, I'm able to be in another country just for a day to make content, to share it with you guys and just share this journey with you all.
Today's been a pretty long day. We've been shooting all day, nearly about 8 hours now. We're heading back to London shortly, and today's been pretty crazy. 2 years standing here right in front of this. I've taken photos for nearly 2 years now. It's been a hell of a ride, but the most important part is I'm doing it with my friends, I'm having fun, and I'm finally getting on this YouTube stuff. So please, join along.